All right, so Bitcoin, huh? Trying to figure out where it's going to go next.
Yeah, it's always the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Well, more like a $94,000 question right now, am I right?
Good one.
But seriously, we've been digging into some recent analysis and predictions, and it's pretty wild.
It really is. And, Bitcoin's got this history of kind of doing the opposite of what everyone thinks it's going to do.
Right, right. So like throwing everyone for a loop.
Exactly. Making predictions a bit of a challenge.
Well, let's try to unpack it, starting with what we know.
Right.
Bitcoin, it recently went on this tear, almost hit 100,000 bucks, partly fueled by the US election buzz.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild ride.
And then pulled back a bit. Now it's hanging around, what, like 94,000 or so?
Right around there, yeah.
So, big question, where does it go from here? And get this, some analysts are, well, they're not exactly painting a rosy picture.
Yes, some are leaning pretty bearish, actually.
Bearish, huh? So they think it's going down.
That's the gist of it. Like, we've got Sheldon Sniper and Tonevase. They're both pretty respected technical analysts. They've got a decent track record.
So they know their stuff.
They're predicting it could dip below 90,000.
Interesting. So how are they coming up with that? What's their reasoning?
Mostly they're looking at chart patterns, historical trends, that kind of thing. The technical stuff.
Okay, so they're seeing signals basically suggesting like a little pullback.
Exactly. Short term, at least.
Okay, makes sense. But then on the other hand, we've got Fundstrat,
Oh, yeah, now those guys.
which, just so everyone knows, that's a big deal global financial services firm. And they've got Tom Lee and Robert Kiyosaki, and they're coming in with a much bolder prediction.
Oh, yeah, they're not holding back.
They're saying it could potentially crash all the way down to 60,000.
Big difference there.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
30,000 bucks less than the other predictions. So what's their logic? What are they looking at?
Well, they're factoring in a lot of the bigger picture stuff. Macroeconomic variables like potential regulatory changes, inflation worries, and just the overall mood in the traditional financial markets.
Okay, so like the bigger economic forces at play.
Exactly. And they think all of that could create enough uncertainty to really shake things up in the crypto market, trigger a major correction.
So we've got like two very different camps here. One focusing on those technical indicators, the other looking at the broader economic landscape.
Yeah, two very different approaches leading to very different predictions.
Makes you wonder who's right, doesn't it? And then, of course, there's this whole idea of Bitcoin being a contrarian asset.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin's famous for that.
Yeah.
Often does the opposite of what everyone expects.
It's like it likes to keep us on our toes.
It definitely does. And, there's some interesting data from Santiment.
Santiment. What's that?
It's a platform that analyzes behavioral data for cryptocurrencies, looks at stuff like social media sentiment and online discussions.
Oh, interesting. So they're like tracking the buzz, the chatter.
Exactly. And they're saying right now, there's a lot of talk about a potential Bitcoin pullback. People online, they're buzzing about it, speculating.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And based on historical patterns, that's actually kind of a warning sign.
Wait, so all this talk about a pullback, that could actually mean...
It could mean Bitcoin's about to surge even higher. Remember, it loves to defy expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a bunch of times where people were freaking out, thinking Bitcoin was going to crash, and then boom, it just kept going up.
So like a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of?
I guess you could say that. Yeah, when everyone's expecting it to move one way and it doesn't, it creates this like counter momentum,
So the more people doubt it...
the more it's likely to prove them wrong.
Eh.
And right now, with all this talk of a pullback,
It could be setting us up for another one of those surprise surges.
that's definitely a possibility.
Okay, so instead of crashing down to 60,000 Bitcoin, could...
Some analysts are actually saying we could see it run up to 120,000, maybe even 150,000 before it has any kind of major correction.
Okay,
That's
that's
a
hard.
pretty big jump.
Huge potential upside. I mean, I can see why people get so excited about Bitcoin.
Yeah, even with all the volatility.
It's like...
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes game where the rules are always changing.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to really think critically about it,
Just blindly follow the hype.
Right. You got to have an informed mindset. Don't just panic when things get a little bumpy.
So how should someone who's listening to this, trying to figure out what to do with their Bitcoin, think about its future price?
Well, that's the tough part, isn't it?
I mean, we've got these totally opposite predictions, and then Bitcoin itself likes to do its own thing.
Right. It's hard to know what to believe.
It's kind of mind-boggling.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
The key thing to remember is nobody can predict the future.
Right. No crystal ball.
Nope. Trying to figure out Bitcoin's price is more like navigating a maze than following a straight line.
Okay, so how do we navigate that maze? What are some things to keep in mind?
First off, Don't just rely on one prediction or one analyst.
Okay.
Look at a bunch of different perspectives. Consider all the factors and really weigh the evidence.
So do your research, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And second, you got to know your own risk tolerance and your investment goals.
Right. Everyone's different.
Exactly. Bitcoin's volatile, and you need to be okay with the possibility of losing money as well as making it.
That's a good point. And then...
And finally, never stop learning.
Oh, that's so important.
This crypto world is constantly changing.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of it.
Exactly. Staying informed is key to making smart decisions.
Sounds like the big takeaway here is when it comes to Bitcoin, expect the unexpected.
I think that sums it up pretty well. It's
Yeah.
definitely surprised us before.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so just to recap for everyone, we've got some analysts saying Bitcoin's going to crash maybe down to 60,000.
Right. And others are saying it could surge to new all-time highs like 150,000 before any big correction.
So two very different scenarios.
And both sides have some good points. And the crash predictions are based on technical analysis and historical patterns and worries about potential risks in the market.
And then the bullish outlook is based on Bitcoin's history of defying expectations and the fact that it's becoming more and more popular with institutional investors.
Exactly. There's strong arguments on both sides.
So it's a lot to think about.
Right.
But here's the million-dollar question, or maybe the million Bitcoin question. If Bitcoin tends to do the opposite of what people expect, how should that affect how you think about its future price?
That's the question each investor needs to answer for themselves. There's no one right answer. It all depends on your personal situation, your risk tolerance, and how well you understand the market. But knowing that Bitcoin has this tendency to zig when everyone thinks it's going to zag,
That's really important.
yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind.
It's like a reminder that we're all still figuring this out as we go. There's no roadmap, no guarantees.
Exactly. The future Bitcoin, like the future of any new technology, is full of possibilities, some exciting and some uncertain.
So for someone listening right now trying to figure out, like, what to actually do with their Bitcoin, hold it, sell it, buy more, what do they do?
That's where it gets really tricky. There's no magic answer.
Mm.
You know, it depends on your own goals, how comfortable you are with risk, how Bitcoin fits into your big picture.
Yeah, we can't exactly give out financial advice here.
Right. Definitely not. But maybe we can help people think about the right questions to ask.
Yeah, like what are some of those key questions?
So, for example, are you in it for the long haul? Do you really believe in this technology? Think Bitcoin's could be a big deal in the future? Or are you just looking for quick profits?
That's a good one.
No.
If you're a true believer,
Then those price swings might not matter so much to you.
right, you might even see a dip and think, hey, that's a buying opportunity.
Exactly. But if you're more of a trader,
Then you got to be paying attention to those technical indicators and what the market sentiment is.
yeah, that becomes much more important.
It's like there are two totally different games happening, the long game and the short game.
And they both have their own rules and strategies. You got to know which game you're playing.
Right. Make sure your moves match your goals.
Exactly.
So for anyone listening who's totally new to this, where do they even begin? It can be kind of overwhelming, you know? All these different opinions and predictions.
I'd say start with the basics.
Yeah.
Learn how Bitcoin works, the tech behind it, all that good stuff.
There are some great resources out there.
Yeah. Books, articles, other podcasts.
Even. Oh, and don't forget the community.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
So many online forums and groups where people are talking about Bitcoin, sharing what they know.
That's a great way to learn from others.
Get those different perspectives.
Exactly. The Bitcoin community is full of people who are passionate and really welcoming.
Yeah, just jump in.
Ask questions. Don't be shy.
You'll be surprised how much you can learn from other people who are on the same journey.
That's the truth.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, explored those predictions about Bitcoin's future price, talked about that whole contrarian thing, and even gave some things to think about for anyone who wants to get involved.
Hopefully it's given everyone a better understanding of this exciting world.
Yeah. And, as always, the most important thing is to stay informed, stay curious, keep learning.
This world is changing so fast.
Yeah, there's always something new to discover.
That's for sure.
Only time will tell where Bitcoin goes from here.
Right. Who knows what the future holds?
But that's part of what makes it so interesting.
Right. I think so.
This deep dive has given us a lot to chew on, and hopefully you're feeling more equipped to follow along and make your own informed decisions. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.